Welcome, everybody, to the Bass Fug Podcast. Today, we have two very special guests from Haord Records, Matt Cutler and Ben Mendelewicz. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Hi, thanks for having us.
Okay, there's a lot.
I'm Ben Mendelewicz.
So sorry to switch to podcast voice guy, but this is how you got to do it. My first question, just because this is going to be the best first question. What is outside art?
Oh, gosh. You asked for a bio and I just wrote, let's see. Well, all right.
Because I'm familiar with, I remember.
Ben, you go. I don't know if you want to start that or not.
Okay.
I didn't write the bio, so I think, Matt, you should probably cover that. I don't know what you said. I didn't see what you sent over.
Well, is it like, because I know Wesley Willis was considered like outsider music.
I mean, I know,
is that the same
what it means
thing?
In like a historical, context. Like it means like, not trained or not, hasn't gone through institution or whatever with creating art and is like working on the outside of whatever sort of like art world or something like that, or popular music or something like that. But I don't know, Matt, what you want to what did you say?
I feel like that's sort of perfect. I don't know, we put out records from people who aren't, some are more trained than others, but in general, I think the music world that we exist in is one of, maybe people joining it and joining an experimental scene or whatever because they don't have the training to be in more formal bands where you can sort of, learn, traditional rock music, or just being able to like play off of others based on, music foundations and things like that. I mean, that's.
I feel like Wesley Will, like that is what I would consider outsider music or something, like Daniel Johnston and Wesley Willis and stuff like that. People who are like, they exist on this other. They come from this other approach, which is not like looking at like experimental music or something like that. Right. They kind of just accidentally, or just like by their nature, just like make some kind of art or music that
is different,
appeals to maybe like an alternative subculture, but they're not necessarily like a part of it. Or I feel like historically they're always like people who are considered outsider artists or something are always getting like championed by like the underground or something, because like I feel like by nature, they're just doing this thing that a lot of people in the underground are trying to do. Maybe that's, I don't know, but I wouldn't say that we fit into that, or anyone I really know for the most part. But I know what you're saying though, Matt.
Well, no, I mean, you put it, outsider, I think, is a little bit different from,
let me read
where I suppose I was coming from. I mean, it was just like, I didn't want to say that we're putting out
IDM.
Yeah, I mean, it's just,
I'd love to say.
I'd love to hear, Will, your like impression of
the catalog.
How within a genre, it seems like some of the stuff that we're putting out is. I'd say that a lot of times our stuff, I don't know, fits kind of well in that just like, American underground of like DIY music that sometimes has little bits of whatever thrown in. It's tough.
I'm uncomfortable with this question.
All right. I'm definitely, it's not outsider in the same sense of what you talk about with like Wesley Willis or something, but I think that it mainly just, explains that it's from people who maybe don't even necessarily feel like music is going to be the key to their success or even hope for that, but just do it because they like to do it. I mean,
Wait, Matt, maybe I can decode. Like, I just read what this is referencing. Haord Records has been releasing experimental and outside art and synth rock and pop since 2014. I would probably say outside in this context. Honestly, I feel like it might even be like outside of the niche underground music scene in general, like whatever that we may exist in. Like, I think this whole thing started with us wanting to put out stuff that we didn't think anyone else would, even amongst underground tape labels or whatever, whatever we are. I think that's what that would mean to me. But yeah, I think it's like the outside of the outsiders, not outside artists, but the outsiders, not the greasers.
Yeah,
does that help? Well, I don't know.
No, it was
great question.
Yeah, it always sucks having to categorize and genreify stuff that you're making. Yeah, I mean, that's sort of built out of mostly boredom. Let's face it. Like, if I want to make like a terrorcore record, right? Like, I don't think, you know what I mean? It's not out of a place of I'm bored. I have the materials. I feel artistic and I want to make something, and I want to express something that's different. If you look at a Wesley Willis, or even just going back, if you look at like Wildman Fisher, on Zappa's label, Bizarre Records or whatever, you got more of a, there's a purpose, but it's not a purpose to, you just don't want to be the Beach Boys. You don't want to be the Beach Boys. You got a Casio SK1, you got your own DAW. Like, there's already enough SoundCloud rappers out there. You want to do something that's different, that's actually gonna move people. I would say I would classify you guys. You might be shocked by this, but I would say you're more industrial than anything, because I'm listening to a lot of your catalog. That's another question that I have in my notes, how you're keeping everything, the continuity of your label. But when I go through the entire catalog, there's a lot of like, I wouldn't say it's skinny puppy, but almost every one of these different artists has some demonic vocal at some point of their album, or just like there'll be a song that sounds like a Nightmare Elevator or something with like nostalgic, familiarities to it, but like also like very discordant notes. I know that this sounds like kind of pretentious or whatever, but my explanation of it. But I would say it's crosses more like industrial, like late 70s, early 80s industrial. Does that make any sense?
I feel like, it's definitely in there for sure.
Because
it makes sense. I mean, it's, it's a lot of like electronically, manipulated human stuff, so it fits the bill for like the industrial sort of
formula.
I was going to say like, canon. Yeah.
Like there's some of the songs, or I would be like, if I was at an Otto von Schirach show, like he would be opening for this person, it's like anyways, I don't need to get more descriptive about it, but because you asked what I would classify it as, I would classify it as some type of new industrial. I don't know. I know you aren't dressed in black with eyeliner or anything like that, but I think
it's cool. I mean,
I love to hear that, honestly. I mean, it's obvious. That's a musical lineage that is certainly in my interests and Ben's, and I mean, probably most of the people whose stuff we put out. I think it makes sense. It's just funny that you, having, listened to the catalog and picked that up, I just wouldn't have even thought to even say that was that was something that somebody would hear from it. So I don't know. It's cool to hear it.
How do the two of you maintain the continuity of your label? Because I don't want to say all the artists sound the same, because it's not like that, but there is definitely a continuity for what seems to be a genre of music that isn't really classifiable. And I'm sorry if this sounds like I'm like kissing your guys' asses or something, or if it sounds like kind of, you know, like art review, but when I just don't know how else to articulate it. Like I hear that there's influences like for Macula Dog. It's like going back to the Frank Zappa stuff, like Captain Beefheart, like Devo. It's like Devo with like a Casio and Super Nintendo sound fonts, you know, and I don't really know who else has done that before, right?
I mean, I, as far as your first question, like, how do we keep it consistent? Honestly, like, in my view, like, we've not put out that much. So, like, I would find it kind of hard to keep it. I think it's just accidentally and just, like, we've started just putting out stuff that we liked of people that we knew and that we didn't think would get much, you know. I think things are different now, but when we first started, it just felt like there's like 4 people that we knew who all made stuff that we really liked, and we were just like, oh, let's put it out because no one else is gonna put this out, or at least like put a lot of enthusiasm behind it or something, like, and make it seem more of a. I feel like we started off wanting to maybe sort of like lie about how much of a thing it actually was, when it's, you know, it was just a few people. But then it turned into this thing where we'll get emails now of people where it's just like people it's aesthetically, it just seems like they fit right in. I mean, we're not very active.
Yeah.
And we have put stuff out that doesn't fit in, that doesn't really, and then like people are like seemingly confused and don't really want to buy it. I won't talk about it. I won't get into like who did that and what, you know, but It's just kind of like this. I honestly just, I want to break out of that, but I don't know. I think we're just like not aware of how maybe like deep in something we are. I don't know. Because I just feel like we haven't put out enough to. I'm rambling, Matt.
No, I hear what you're saying though.
We started it in 2014, like I guess we said earlier. We were both, 22. We're now about what?
Okay, sorry.
What, you were different?
I was trying to do the math. That's not. I think we were older than that. But
23. Yeah. I mean, it was like
too old. We were too old.
Now we're too old. But as far as the cohesion, I think Ben kind of nodded to it. We did at the beginning, like, start out with a comp of just a couple people we knew, and we're like, oh yeah, here's a comp, and here's a scene that we're documenting, but in reality, like, that maybe was the whole scene, and maybe. Look, and I hesitate to say any of this because it's like, surely there's probably tons of stuff out there that has this type of sound and we just don't know about it, and there's other people doing their thing,
but it wasn't on your radar.
I don't know, we very purposely were like, oh yeah, let's like try to be consistent with sorry, there's just like Ben, you're making so much noise.
Me? Oh, that's the radiator.
Sample
you got
it.
A siren, right?
Sample it.
So we're like,
so sorry.
Just like
no. This is good. This is good. I don't want people thinking we're a sellout podcast. We're interviewing the real underground artists.
Anyway, I don't know if that makes sense. We did start off basically, just to do a quick recap. Yes, we started off trying to like. I'm just trying to reset just because we had all that noise.
Yeah, it's fine.
Like, we tried out. And also, Will, your voice is like so low, so I can't even hear you sometimes come in if you are.
Oh, really?
Saying some things. I don't know what's happening.
Okay.
I'm sorry for the editing that you're gonna have to do.
No, there's no editing. We just raw dog it. It just goes out like this.
Yeah, honestly, the 2 most recent releases that we ended up doing, I think, are people who've sort of kind of come our way in a sense, instead of us like just reaching out to friends. And not that these people weren't people who we know from music, etc., but it's just, you know, it is funny to kind of just see it eventually turn that way, where maybe, you know, you've, through these years of stuff that you've put out, had some influence on people, and then they end up coming back to you. So,
and not to keep like to keep on the subject, the artwork is really maintains the continuity too, and
I think that's right.
Yeah, and maybe some of the appeal is with collectors, you know, especially if people are buying tapes. You know, if you're buying tapes, like, you're dealing with a music listener, right? And so they see a label and they want to get the whole catalog of the label, you know. And maybe it wasn't intentional, but I think you've created something that is unique, and is fun to follow. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Ben, yeah, I think that. What's up?
Yeah, Ben, talk.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think like the idea for a label for us was always interesting because of that, you know, because it's like the band, doing a band is also like that. And it's just these kind of forms that, you know, I'm sure you were like this, like, we're anyone who like is in a band and like also is an artist was always just like drawing like band logos before they had the band. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like some of the most interesting aspects of music culture or something is the labels that make everything seem like they fit together, and the packaging of bands and like bands t-shirts and all this stuff, like it's auxiliary to the music itself. Like, I think, yeah, I mean, that interests me a lot. And I know like when we are making our own music, like that's a big part of it. It's just about creating a universe. And, you know, I think with the tape art, it's like, you know, whether it's tapes or not, like, I think we just started doing tapes because it was like really easy, but, and cheap. But whether it's, you know, the art just kind of accidentally, like, I wasn't trying to do, I wanted to, but I like when people ask me to, but I wasn't trying to do all the art. It just kind of turned into this thing where we did a few releases that were pretty much like our own music. And then we asked other people to do it, and they're like, well, to put out tapes or for them. And they were like, well, I like the art you did on the last one. Do you want to do this one? And then that just kept happening. Because I honestly like feel like artists should have, like, musicians and bands and stuff should just be able to, I feel like the best stuff is when they do their own art. So it's kind of funny that I'm like, was de facto artist for all these tapes when I was like, oh.
That's not always the case. I think I have to disagree with you on that one.
What? That you don't like when bands do their own art?
Yeah, sometimes it's like, bud, like I do. I like it when if they could pull it off. But I think in the digital age, like, I love the democracy of just like there's no more Madonnas. There's no more none of this like garbage. You know, it's like power to the people. Anyone could express themselves. But sometimes it's just MS Paints, and it's like, you know, which is fine in isolated incidences, but sometimes when it's, you know what I mean? It's like, if you could have just got a stock photo at least or something.
I mean, I know, you know, I'm always willing to take like the risk of it being, I mean, that's kind of what we don't, you know, when we put stuff out, it's like, we don't really like, we just ask the person to put something out. We're never like, well, let us hear it first for the most part. Like, yeah, I just kind of like, I want to trust, because I know how I would feel. And this is like such a small scale operation. Like, we're not really doing much, but like, you know, it's like, I feel like I would much rather risk a bad album cover and have them do it the way they want it, or see some, you know, have them see their vision through, than like, you know, because I feel like a lot of people can do it, they just feel like they can't or something. I don't know. I like when stuff's like, it just feels really authentic and genuine, and like you're getting the whole package with someone's, vision for something. But if they don't want to do it, yeah, sure.
Yeah. I guess a tip that I'd throw out there, if you aren't a Photoshop guru, just use your phone and take a picture of something random and maybe turn up the contrast a little bit. And that's better than the spray can with in MS Paint. But do you do the videos too, Ben?
No. I mean, I've done some. It depends on which one. I mean, I've done a few, but most of them are for Macula Dog, and with those we kind of work together on them. I've done some though. Yeah.
I mean, out of the two of us, Ben's more of the visual artist. I mean, I certainly contribute, and Ben will agree, I guess. But I mean, he's the one I think the strongest sort of. I mean, yeah, you do a lot of the tape art. He does a lot of the Macula Dog videos. He just has like a lot of the technical know-how, just rendering, honestly. Like
you edited a lot of the video stuff.
Yeah, some. But yeah, I mean, but yeah, Ben.
I haven't done.
Ben, maybe Ben won't give himself credit, but he deserves credit for his contributions to the label's sort of visual, how visual it is.
But I don't think I've done videos for anybody else except for our own. I've only done our own videos.
Yeah, I suppose.
I think, unless I'm wrong, but I just can't remember doing anybody else's videos. That's mostly they take care of it, and sometimes we'll post it on our YouTube, but most of the time it's just so like low key, and like most of the time we don't, we're not like a real label. We don't go like, you got to give us a music video. It'd be nice, but and then when they do, they can post it wherever. Like we don't really do. This last one we did kind of some promotion stuff where we had like it got, we had it debut or something like that, and
we tried.
But it's all just whatever with with whatever people want to do for the most part.
Yeah, like the artist came to us and they kind of did want more promotion stuff, so we tried to make it happen. I don't know. That's really it. We want to make
like underwhelming happen. Description of this label.
No, it's good. It's good. I'm just trying to see there's a fork on the road, I guess, as Dr. Phil would say, of directions I want to take the interview in. I want to go, I guess, in the tape duplication sphere. I want to talk about tape duplication. I want to know the ins and outs and the nitty gritty about it. How I guess the first question I have about that is, what are some tips if you want to do tape duplication?
I'd say go online and just get it done through like duplication.ca or like National Audio. I don't know.
It's a Montreal company.
For years, I bought these like Cabo Research like tape duplicators, but they were missing like the ribbon connector that like allowed you to actually like consistently duplicate like 8 tapes at a time. And I think just that mixed with the fact that I didn't know anything about, honestly, just trying to keep them like clean and just how to produce like great sounding tapes.
Because they gotta sound great,
I want it to sound fine. It led to some really terrible sounding tapes, and then after that experience, I traded them for a MIDI rack mixer to this guy Adam and this group Time Ghosts.
I wonder if he still has them. Or
but
got them to work.
Yeah, so got rid of those. Got something more useful, and now just go online and just get stuff duplicated. I mean, Ben will go and order all the labels, and labels and art and stuff, and we put that all together ourselves. But yeah, it's pretty easy and not too expensive. And then you you only have to sell them for like $5 each to like make
Recoup.
back really what you put into it. So
is there like mastering details? Because I know with vinyl they're always like don't make it do stereo because the needle will skip. When you're it's
Mono only.
Yeah.
yeah, see you're allowed to put, you know, large bass thuds in just the left channel on tape, and you can't do that on our records. So
yeah,
that's why we're pro tape. I don't know.
But anything above like, you know, 16.
It's gone.
16K or whatever is just
the tape thing is really just a cheap way to have a physical object of the release. I really think that's mainly what it's about, and I think it just gives sort of an artist joy when they can actually hold it. Like I mean, obviously, if we had more money and we're like wanting to actually promote things, maybe we could do records. And
we're about giving artists joy.
Hey man,
but it's nice though. Like if the COVID stuff has taught us anything, getting stuff in the mail, as like horrible as it is in terms of like an economic whatever. I won't get into the politics, but
Sure.
It's nice to get a letter, crack it open, and your thing's there, right?
Yeah, it's true. For real. I mean, for sure.
It's nice to get a letter, crack it open, and then there's a cracked jewel case inside of it.
Okay, well, sorry. The
No.
yeah.
I'm late on sending stuff out right now, so that hit me a little hard.
Yeah, is that a pain in the ass? Like, do you have like some type of UPS deal where it's like if you send 100 tapes, you get a discount, or what?
No.
How does that work?
I use my family business's stamps.com account. That's the only insider tip that I that I have for that. This as far as like fun like digital wonkery stuff, as far as like how to master for tape, Ben has more experience with that, but I don't know if there's really anything of note to
I used to try to compensate for like, you know, like the loss of like high end on like, you know, music grade or whatever standard regular bias tapes, like but I realized that one, I shouldn't be doing this when it wouldn't matter because we're just duplicating it on these like crappy duplicators, and then whoever gets it most of the time isn't going to be listening on like a really good system, and then we just started pro dubbing that, like sending them to get dubbed, and they just sound fine, and you know it's you gotta just take it for what it is with cassettes, I think. But like I don't even have a cassette player. I that's the funny part, is I don't really listen to tapes, but I think especially now I feel like it's hard to get records pressed, and I feel like it's still just a good economical way for like bands and musicians to just have like a physical release of their work.
Yeah, it's like if you're at a show and a band plays a song that you think sounds good, and then they have a tape for $5, but you know nothing else about the band, it's not that hard to buy the tape. And I just, you know, if as they get bigger and get more industry or just label support, you know, they can get records pressed and more fans and stuff. But I just feel like the economics of it makes sense right now. So I don't know how cool that is, but I mean, it's just kind of practical. And also, I don't know, both of it, it's just like, you know, when I made my way into the music scene, some of the like coolest shit out there were people, you know, were like small independent tape labels putting out weird shit. So, you know, I had to jump in there and do it too.
I think there's something about, I'm just sort of discovering this in the last year. I don't want, especially since I'm a host of a podcast of, you know, musicians, DIY producers, etc. I don't want to discourage what I'm about to say. Isn't supposed to sound mean or whatever, but there is a lot of music out there, and a lot of people don't want to listen to it, you know. And you make an album that you lord over for months, and you put it on you put it on your media, your social media, your Facebook wall or whatever, and you might get a few people listening to it. Now there's probably people out there that get a lot of people that listen to their stuff, but I think if you use physical media as kind of like a direct mail, I guess, sort of thing where you send someone a free tape, like I feel like you're going to get more traction than if you're kind of like an unknown artist just throwing a link somewhere on Reddit or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's certainly like an American tape culture thing. You know, I don't know how strong it is, honestly. Like now, I know that in 2010 there were a bunch of tape, a bunch of blogs that covered tape-only music. I mean, that big podcast Tabs Out has, since we started Haord, been a huge supporter of us. Just and that was their specialty. They just only really covered tape labels and that sort of culture. And I mean, I get it. It's because it makes it sort of accessible in a way that sometimes it's hard to when it's only digital, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know.
It's just, for us, it's just easy. We don't have like an ideological stance on tapes. Like if we had the money to be doing records and for a bunch of bands who like don't tour and some of them don't even exist anymore, like I would totally do that. I would do CDs, I would do digital only. It's just like it's a way to like keep things sustainable. And honestly, if stuff moves on from tapes and I think as far as like the buzzy kind of medium to work with, we'll do that. I think it's just about having something to represent the work in the physical world that makes it's sort of interesting to us, I guess. I don't know.
How do you both consume music?
Only digitally, and then sometimes I play records, but mostly just digital. I do have CDs that I play in my car.
Nice.
I like CDs.
Yeah, I not to reveal like my Montrealness here, but I like to go to thrift stores a lot. Okay, and the whole thing sucks now, like because of the eBay flipping and all this crap. You can't find anything for the good old days are gone, except for CDs. Yeah. You can get CDs for like $4 for $1 some places, And I started just buying CDs because I can't break the habit of going to these places. And I was like, whatever, I'm a CD collector now. Dude, and I love it. I freaking love it. I love it. And the thing is, I picked up at a thrift store for like $20, like a 5-disc CD changer thing. And I load that up with 5 CDs. And that's what I listened to for like 3 days because I'm just too lazy to reopen it. But you really start to devour music differently. When I was on Spotify, I was looking for all this esoteric stuff and I would just jump from one thing to another and nothing really, clawed its way into my ears. Nothing kind of stayed around. But I feel with CDs, I don't know. Do you get what I'm saying? Do you feel like there's any validity to physical media, or do you think it's just?
I think that's exactly what we were, just talking about with wanting to get something out there, tapes or CDs. And for a while, it was like nobody was going to buy a CD, so we were doing tapes because people were down to support. So, but yeah, as far as the yes, definitely CDs are fun to look through at the thrift store. It seems like one of the last fun things to look through.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you there.
I'm wondering...
your radiator is going insane.
Yeah, it goes all like Todd Dockstader all on my, like every 20 minutes here. Sorry. I was wondering,
the audience of your label, can you go sort of a little bit more in depth with, I know you said you aren't really active, but how are people finding your label and how did it expand beyond just sort of the collective of your friends to the people who are following it now?
I don't really know. It's like hard to, I think just like Bandcamp when we first put stuff up, I think there was some people who found us just through Bandcamp,
Right.
which is kind of cool. Eventually, after we started the label and we had our own band that we put stuff out from the band, like our band, Macula Dog, kind of brought the few people who liked our band would then see the label, and we would sell the label stuff at our shows with our tapes, just stuff like that. I don't really know. I know that I've seen it pop up on like Reddit and 4chan and like, forums like that. And the coolest one was, I think like that we get kickbacks. Is that what it's called? Not kickbacks, that's money, but
royalties.
we get whatever it's called when someone like, clicks a link and you see where it's coming from.
Yeah.
But the best one that I love every time is like one every few months comes from We Are the Makers of the Music or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Forum. And that literally like it's Seth from Libythth made a post with a link to our thing. I was like, hell yeah, like talking about like Reflex Records or something, man. And someone was like, what should I look at? Which I don't know. It's kind of a stretch. I feel like people probably get bummed out, but like it stuff like that, just like forums, and I've seen like tiny things. I just don't know how many people actually do find it, so it's hard for me to really answer.
Shout out to Joyrex, of the guy who made We Are the Music Maker. He used to post on the apextwin.nu, the Xltronic, the old Aphex Twin message board back in the day.
I listened to your interview with Seth, and so it's cool that you were a part of that. I'm too young to be like to have been like really active on that kind of stuff back then, but seems like you all were pretty deep in it. It sounds cool.
I'd rather be young in 2022 than old and with some minor Aphex Twin forum cred, But
well, it seems like a fun. It seemed fun.
It was cool because when I look at your label, if I would have saw this 20 years ago, well, even now, like I'm judging it from the eyes of like 20 years ago. I'm like, fuck yeah, this is awesome. 20 years ago. Think of the most normie person, and I'm not like trying to disrespect the normies out there or whatever, but like think of the most normie person that and like multiply that by 20, and that's what everybody was pre-internet, before everybody had access to the iPhone and stuff. So music sucked, TV sucked, and the only thing you could get that was good was on SoulSeek or like these weird like underground piracy like places. And the bands didn't even exist, right?
I still use SoulSeek, and I still think it's one of the best, like,
by
one
far.
of the best things that ever happened. Like, once I got too many viruses from like LimeWire or whatever, and realized there was SoulSeek, but like.
Well, it was made by the IDM newsletter. Next time you go on SoulSeek, click on the About section and you might see it. So that was sort of the precursor to the SoulSeek was made to pirate Aphex Twin and like Autechre, basically.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it might still show it in the notes. I don't know, but I forget where I was going with that. Sorry about that.
I don't know how people find us. I think.
Oh yes, that was a question.
Yeah, I think Ben kind of answered it. A little bit spills in through Macula Dog, and a little bit through. People are hungry for cool things. I don't know if we're cool, but at least we're doing something.
Things. At least we have things.
Okay, so I
sorry, that's like a nothing boring answer that didn't explain anything. Apologies.
No, it's good. Don't worry about it. I want to talk about your guys'. Well, I don't know. Like, do you want to talk about Macula Dog a little bit, or?
Sure.
No?
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
Sure.
So I wanted to ask you guys, like, sort of where you started your music history. We touched on a lot of other stuff. I never really got around to it. But how did you guys meet, and what was your music background before all this? Because speaking to, like, the esoteric nature of your label, how did you go from what were you even listening to, like in junior high or high school, that kind of got you to be into the sort of weird side of experimental electronic music?
Well, I mean, we've known each other since we were like 8. So we grew up together, went through various phases of, you know, just normal music taste for like an 8-year-old in the 90s or something, like onward, you know. But like, I think that, you know, I only really started listening then, you know, we were in like a ska band together, and
nice.
Like, just like, you know, talk about like, you know, the most hated music genre or something, like, but yeah. It primed us to just not care about what's going on and like whatever we like, and, you know, and just got us into like horn sections, I guess. But yeah, we were in like a ska band, or we tried to start a bunch of ska bands, and like ended up in like a, you know, experimental instrumental rock band. And like, you know, I know that it's just that high school was like that, you know, and got into actual like music that I would probably still listen to when I was in high school, you know, like everyone, like listening to like
the whole like, Fourth Thunder scene, and like
the Locust, and like you know, but I was like listening to the Locust and like Tiny Tim were like my 2 favorite things to listen, and like, yeah, like all the Aphex Twin, Square Pusher stuff I got into at that age. And, you know, Bruce Hack I was like really into when I was in high school, so it was just like a weird vibe. And we were in Florida, so there wasn't much going on, so like twice a year there'd be like, or once or twice a year there'd be an actually cool show to go to, that someone actually like gave us the pity stop on their tour to like come all the way down there. And
was it Miami?
Play. A little north of Miami. It was West Palm Beach.
Okay, because Miami is Otto von Schirach territory.
Yeah, like schematic
of course,
and stuff. But yeah. I didn't know about that world until later, like until I had moved away, because I was just like too young to know about it back then. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm more into that stuff now than I probably would have even been back then if I knew about it.
So you both lived in Florida and you both moved to New York, I guess?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Separately, but yeah, we both made our way up here.
Yeah, a pretty important show for us was seeing the Locust play when we were maybe 16, and then someone, basically this band opened for them, this band from Orlando called Yip Yip, and Brian from Yip Yip became a friend, and now he puts out music on Haord under Cabo Boing. So I think if you were to say, you know, I think that's sort of a pretty important show in both of our lives. Yeah, the Locust and then Yip Yip opening. It was a pretty influential show.
I still chase that.
Yeah, I mean, it was incredible.
Show. Like, I still want to see a show that gets me as psyched as something as that show did. Like when I was like 15 or
16. I'm very happy it wasn't like 21 and up. It was really cool. It was at a bar, and somehow they were okay with having children there. I don't know why they let that happen for a night, but I'm just thankful to the promoter for doing that.
The Locust required it. Like, you can't be like a clear channel venue or an over 18 venue or something.
Yeah, and then I don't know, I guess Yip Yip pretty important as far as us eventually forming Macula Dog. I mean, Yip Yip's another 2-piece, very theatrical. You know, I mean, I guess the Locusts are the same way, right? Not 2-piece, but wearing outfits and kind of trying to create a vibe. But yeah, Ben went up to New York when he was like 18, and then I followed like 4 or so years later. So now that's how we both ended up here. So.
Can you talk about the use of sound fonts? Are those SNES sound fonts that I'm hearing, or is that something else?
No, we don't. I think I've used like, general MIDI sounds like twice on a.
Okay.
I don't think we never really. Those are any like. Yeah, the closest thing to like a sound font or general MIDI that we've used a lot is most of that stuff is either like a sample that we made ourselves, or it's like you're talking about just like on any of the Macula Dog stuff that you've heard, or like.
Yeah, in general. I noticed there was a lot of like Super Nintendo sounding vibe to it.
Yeah, so the
like Devo with like a circuit bent Super Nintendo almost.
There is this thing, so Macula Dog kind of a lot of the sounds, at least from what I brought to it, really came from these 2 things I found at a thrift store when I was in college, and I milked them. I'm still milking them. But one is like the 4-operator, like tiny FM thing. It's called a FB01 by Yamaha.
Oh yeah, I had 2 of those.
And that can get kind of like, that can get
can't even edit it.
The video game vibe, but like, sorry, you cut out.
No, I just threw in. You can hardly even edit anything with it.
Yeah, I mean, I've used the editors they've made on only like, 2 times in my life. It was like 2, at that point I didn't know how to edit any FM stuff, but I still have it, and it definitely got me into like that whole world, but yeah. That's like the closest thing to like something like that. But no, we don't use any sound canvas or
like that led Ben to now having an FS1R. So it's like, as far as like gateway instruments, I mean.
Well, no, you said you want gear talk.
Yeah, let's do it. That was the next thing I was going to ask.
So this is a good story that merges the two, but when we were like 16 or something, I was at Matt's house, and
right.
I was trying to convince him, like, Matt, like, I don't know, Matt, you correct me if I'm wrong, or like if I'm mischaracterizing you, but he didn't really play any instruments really. But he could play like piano a little bit. But like I only played drums, but I just remember being at his house and we were hanging out one day, and I don't know why I was in his closet, but I did, or he showed me this. He pulls out a DX100 and he's like, oh yeah, my dad had one, had this thing. And like, I just remember I was like, okay, we got to start a band or something. And like, or you got to play this, because it was like, oh my God, it's a synthesizer. I've never seen a real synthesizer. And it was still just this like black box kind of like, yeah, it's a synth, but you kind of have to know a little bit of what you're doing to like even make changes to any of the sounds on there. But the basic sounds were enough. And that was even before I got that FB01. So like,
true.
That was the thing that was just like, I don't know. But it's cool that your dad had that. I mean, honestly.
He had that in a PMD5, that like one of those little Roland.
PMA5?
PMA5? What was it? It's just like one of those weird little like stylus, little piano roll music composers that apparently my dad would he'd take me to the park when I was like a baby and just sit on a bench and like play with that thing. And then it got put in the closet for a long time.
Your closet?
Yeah, it was my closet, I guess.
So you had all this gear laying around, and you guys just found it, and were like, hey, I like FM synths. Like, let's start a band.
I also, the other piece of gear my dad had, which is, I think it's almost objectively the worst drum machine ever created. It's the Seal MDP5, I think it is. Ben, is that?
I don't remember the numbers, but yeah, something.
you'd be amazed at how shitty these sounds were. Like they're not even like they're very like hard to work with. They're like missing just their frequencies, just like they don't sit in mixes. It's a very strange drum machine, and it was that the DX100 and that little PMA, and then finding those things was just kind of like the beginning of this journey into other music after having only played like piano and trombone. So
how are you what is your production process now? Is it like more live, or is it straight up like sitting in like piano roll mode? What DAW are you using, if you don't mind me asking? How does it work?
Well, it's evolved. I think it's still kind of the same as it's been, but in a way, like when we started Macula Dog specifically, our goal was to like be a live band, in the way that a rock band is live, but like, so I was playing electronic drums, and we were making it a point to play everything by hand. We could do it in a live take, and including vocal effects and stuff like that. So a lot of that stuff was just done live, multi-track recorded, but like on Logic, but like it was live. And then like every once in a while we'd go in and mess with like piano roll stuff to like add a part or whatever to do overdubs, but that way we could play it. I think we were really frustrated because before that we were writing music separately and together that was like too complicated to play live for just two people, and almost felt like we were like not good enough musicians to keep up with a backing track for something complicated or something. So like we would we just wanted to make it a point to play it like live. So it also helped us with this to keep things as minimal as we can. I know that stuff doesn't sound very minimal, but it was a way to like not make it sound insanely maximal. But like, now it's kind of evolved where we're doing both, and it's, we just finished a record and we've been passing it. We passed files back and forth long distance on Logic, and, I'd record the MIDI stuff with a drum pad, but then once the MIDI's on Logic, I would just be dumping it to, whatever gear, like hardware or soft synth stuff after the fact. So I think it's probably evolved to just like a more standard electronic music person setup, I guess.
A lot of our like sample, a lot of times we'll kind of grab original samples from just us playing around live, and then we take that and it gets resampled a million different ways, and then eventually that goes back onto gear, and then we'll maybe play that gear live, and then it's just kind of this weird process where we're going back and forth between live and the computer. And then the fact that we then try to just be a live band again means that we take everything, try to dump it back onto gear again, but still try to be pretty consistent. And sorry, Ben, you're just the dripping.
I'm so sorry that you can like hear that.
Nah, it's fine. No, don't worry about it.
I just lost my train of thought.
People that listen to this podcast listen to like Merzbow. They don't care.
We try to keep things faithful to how it sounds on the record, and so maybe there's, when Ben's working, Ben mainly, Ben's the one who comes up with the vocal effects for the most part, and we try to keep it something that we can replicate live. So, we care a lot about the live show. So we try not to go too far away from that when we're working on the records.
Awesome. Guys, I busted your time. Thank you for going over. I appreciate it. I didn't mean to keep it long. That was so fun. Don't worry about the radiator. Like some of the people that listen to this, like I said, are listening like Merzbow and Einsters and Nail Button. A little bit of radiator. They'll like that. They'll like that part. So before we go.
Damn. All right. I don't know. Honestly, though, if there was if there was something you feel like you needed to ask just to cap it off, you totally can.
Okay. Where can we find you? Where can people listening out in Basefogland find your work?
Yeah. So how the record label Haord, it's HAORD, and then just haord.bandcamp.com, and you can just download everything from there for free, for the most part, or buy a tape. And then Macula Dog stuff is on there, but then we also put out records on this label called Wharf Cat, so they have some of our stuff. But you can. It's not hard to find. Just MACULA DOG.
Excellent. Thanks for your time. I'm just gonna say end the podcast, and then I'll say goodbye in a sec. Thanks everybody for listening, and bye-bye. There we go.
Bye.
Bye.
This program was brought to you by the superwill64.com Entertainment Network. For more great shows, podcasts, and music, please visit superwill64.com.